Hey everybody, I hope y'all are having an amazing day today. My name is Mercer and welcome back to another episode of Character War. And today on Character War we have two characters who control and use snakes for their own villainous gain. I'm talking about none other than Orochimaru, the Snake Sage Sannin from Naruto, versus Medusa, the Snake Witch from Soul Eater. So, who wins this fight? Well, why don't we see for ourselves? Before the age of Naruto and Sasuke, even before the age of Kakashi himself, the Hidden Leaf Village, or the village hidden in the leaves, Konoha, was a bit different than what people would think. As it was older and only two Hokage had developed, the eventual third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, taught three new prodigies: Tsunade, Jiraiya, and a young child named Orochimaru. Orochimaru growing up was a bit strange and quite unusual in Hiruzen Sarutobi's standards. He didn't develop many, traits beyond stoic, and often they would find themselves being peculiar. But they mastered the four fundamentals of being a ninja and learned to be the best. Taijutsu, the art of hand-to-hand combat and using mixed martial arts. Ninjutsu, the art of performing ninja combat, oftentimes with elemental attacks. Genjutsu, the art of using illusions, and usually through a Sharingan, and Senjutsu, the art of using chakra as an extension of one's personal body, normally as a sage. Orochimaru then developed and mastered a number of different jutsus along the way concerning those different jutsus. They became members of the Akatsuki, and after years, they eventually betrayed their home in the Hidden Leaf Village. Orochimaru then mastered tons of different jutsus as he is a powerhouse by Hokage level standards. He obviously knows basic fundamentals like Taijutsu, using chakra to walk on walls and water, shadow clones, substitution jutsu, kunai training, but they also know a number of different jutsus, including the ability to use genjutsu on somewhat small standard, though we have not seen them use genjutsu that often. And if you're wondering, yes, Orochimaru does use both he, him, and they are pronouns. Back to business. Orochimaru also mastered a bit of different elemental jutsus, including fire style, water, ice, electric, but normally most of their jutsus come from the use of being a sage, oftentimes through snakes. That's right, Orochimaru uses snakes for his own power. That means he knows the Shadow Snake Jutsu, calling upon a snake through your sleeve, and often multiple, and even through your mouth. This can be just 3, 4, or a number of multiple snakes. He can sneak through a snake's belly like a portal. He can often use snakes and use different appendages through his body, like making his nails harder, his mouth venomous, he can stretch different limbs. And Orochimaru can use the summoning jutsu for their own power. They can summon small snakes, medium snakes, snakes with 2 heads, massive snakes with 2 heads, and the king of all snakes, King Manda. This snake was so immensely powerful that they were able to take on 2 of the most powerful summoning beasts: Gamabunta, the chief toad, and Jiraiya's toad, as well as Lady Katsuyu, the chief slug. And Orochimaru has mastered a number of different snake jutsus, including the use of different curse marks, as well as he can obviously use venom, but curse marks allow them to use and completely control a different opponent, such as Sasuke Uchiha, and he can use the resurrection jutsu that they came up with, which allows them to resurrect a number of different opponents and help and aid. Meaning he can get Hashirama or Toriyama or his old master Hiruzen Sarutobi, who died because of him, and help him aid. This is how they were able to resurrect Minato to go fight Madara. Orochimaru also developed his own special weapon that they can use for help: the Kusanagi Sword. The Kusanagi Sword, Orochimaru can use that the sword to telepathically control it and channel some of its chakra through it. This helps him as he's not the brightest with taijutsu, but he can use a fair amount of it. Sasuke Uchiha also used his sword as Orochimaru taught him that way. Orochimaru has a number of different powerful feats, as well as being able to go toe-to-toe with Hiruzen Sarutobi. Like I mentioned before, they were holding back in that fight, but it was important to know that both Hiruzen and Orochimaru were stated to be at Hokage level. Orochimaru also survived the third Hokage, Hiruzen's Reaper Death Seal, which can take one's jutsu and use it for their own power, though he did take his jutsu abilities back in the use of his arms. Orochimaru also can scale to both Jiraiya and Tsunade in terms of base form. Why do I mention base form, you're wondering? Because Jiraiya can do a whole bunch more in his Sage mode, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Obviously, they're capable of leveling canyons and maybe even going into the country to small continental level. This is amazing as Jiraiya can use the Big Ball Rasengan to carve out a mountain in his Sage mode, though we're not taking a look at that as Orochimaru cannot technically scale to that, but he can scale to base form Itachi without dual Mangekyo Sharingan and possibly even Pain. He was also given the respect of the Uchihas. Basically, they all refer to him as Lord Orochimaru, as well as being able to scale to Kakashi, who can intercept lightning bolts. Same with Itachi and Pain. Obviously, he's also scalable to some heavy-hitting attacks like the Sengan and even Itachi's Genjutsu, which could easily put Kakashi in the hospital. And Orochimaru survived that without a scratch on him. He basically just became scared of Itachi in a way. And, like I said, Kakashi was put in the hospital for multiple days to even weeks after that moment. Orochimaru is easily scalable to some of the higher characters in Naruto, like Pain's Gravity Jutsu, depending on who you ask, and even Tsunade's ability to lift up and control Gamabunta's sword. Not control it, just lift it up. That puts every character around 50 to 60 tons. I mean, I'm not every character, every Sanin, these three that you're looking at. And with Tsunade being able to even create earthquakes and all being trained by Hiruzen Sarutobi means that they could be put at country level, as that's the registered level that I put Hiruzen at. Also, people are probably wondering, what about Sage Mode and the Rinnegan? Well, obviously, I think Orochimaru could scale to the Rinnegan, but Sage Mode he did not learn. He only learned a small part of Sage Mode, and has learned different abilities from it. He cannot fully access the full potential of Sage Mode. Sorry, but he can't. But he did teach Kabuto that, so you can go look at him if you want to see what Snake Sage Mode looked like. It's creepy, guys. Orochimaru eventually turned to a path of good by Boruto, but whether he's good or bad is totally up to you. Remember, Orochimaru might just be one of the finest ninja in the Hiddenleaf Village, though he might just be evil. In the world of Soul Eater, the school Death Weapon Meister Academy, yes, that's its full name, is known for putting down some of the toughest opponents in the Soul Eater world. Evil Souls, Kishins, and even, get this, some powerful witches. Some of the most powerful witches in Soul Eater are capable of amazing feats, and the two that stand out the most are Lady Arachne and her younger snake witch sister, Medusa. Medusa is known as being one of the most powerful witches in all of Soul Eater, and is capable of amazing feats in order to accomplish her goals. As she is a witch, and she is an animal-themed witch, she has snakes that she can control. And in order to fulfill her plan, she needed to blend in as a doctor at this school, Death Weapon Meister Academy, yes, I know it's a long name, to cover herself and to sneak in to fully resurrect the Kishin and stop Lord Death, the Grim Reaper and head of the school. What's the Kishin I'm talking about? Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. So she used her own child, Krona, injected her with black blood, and so she could revive the Kishin, Ashura. Basically, one of the most powerful entities, and an entity engulfed on evil, so evil that he even ate his own Meister. Ugh, gross. And Medusa is fully capable of weaponizing and fighting, as as a witch. Since we'll be talking about her, let's talk about some powerful abilities. Medusa is remarkably strong, able to go toe-to-toe and use her hands as swords. But when she needs to bust out some powerful magic, she'll use snakes, which she has dozens of them, even thousands throughout her body, to use as weapons. She can obviously summon shadow snakes and snakes to attack, lure snakes within a person's body and sneak them out of her own, sneak snakes around, use giant snakes, walk on giant snakes, control them at will, use venom through her mouth, turn a different appendages in her body throughout as giant snakes, and even can survive without her head and different limbs. But when she needs to use some more advanced magic, she can use her vector arrows and snake magic to create a bunch of powerful arrows, kind of like Shikamaru from Naruto, and attack at will. She can fire these from above, use them to fly, use vector arrows to increase her speed whenever she steps on them. Yeah, it sounds like Mario Kart, I know. And use a number of different vector arrows to just coil around her like snakes and pull a Doc-Ock. She has thousands of these things scattered across her body and uses them at will. She's so strong she can even mold these into different weapons. They can bend like Darkseid's Omega Beams, fire out of her body like will, enhance her super strength, and even turn into drills that she can use for up-close combat. She's so powerful, and you're probably wondering, where does all this power come from? It all comes from an ability that every Meister and weapon have in Soul Eater, and that is their soul wavelength. An ability where basically their wavelengths were kind of like an appendage of their self, but they give magical power and magical boost throughout their entire body. As even still, Medusa has remarkable feats with her wavelength and her skill. She is one of the most powerful witches in all of Soul Eater, and she's scalable to one of the best characters and my personal favorite Soul Eater character, Dr. Frankenstein. And he is remarkably powerful. With his soul force, he was capable of damaging Krona, and Krona has had remarkable feats. Even still, Krona could put a black blood bubble dome around Italy, which could take a powerful amount of force, but overall, in terms of destructibility, would take 11,000 tons. Now, Medusa isn't exactly scalable to this, but she can overall compete with Stein, who can go 45 to 65 tons, capable of damaging the black blood, as it wasn't fully weakened. She can also scale and even surpass sometimes Maka Albarn. And now, we're not taking a look at Maka, who's just awesome god mode, basically, by Soul Eater standards, and even had Black Blood Dress and a number of other different forms, including Adagio of the Soul, which basically means you could turn off their soul wavelength or completely shut them down by normal soul standards, or fight Ashura with the Black Blood Dress. We're taking a look at normal base form Maka or Maka by the series, who can compete with Krona. So Medusa should relatively be stronger than this. Not to mention, by other Soul Eater standards, she can keep up with people, possibly even go close to people like Death the Kid and Blackstar, who can move at 90,000 miles per hour and react to beams of light, making their speeds remarkably fast. And also another thing, many of the witches in Soul Eater, Medusa is considered to be stronger than, and is much more powerful than a number of other witches. But throughout her time, she only really had two main opponents that could put her down for good. And that was, obviously, if you get what I'm saying, Dr. Stein, which she lost to in the first place, who is probably at her equal level, and Maka Albarn when she possessed a child and was resurrected, and eventually died as well. Eventually, Medusa was fully put down for good, and the witch then was killed. But for whenever you look to a snake in the street of Soul Eater, remember that the witch may just live. She was pretty freaking cool. So, who wins this fight? Well, for starters, I really like this fight, as it took some of my favorite snake-like characters into a mix. But let's take a look at speed. Orochimaru's fastest speeds were being able to keep up with Kakashi, who can intercept a lightning bolt, and even going as far as to keep up with Itachi as well, who's likely at around the same speed. As well as Medusa being able to keep up with people like Blackstar and Death the Kid through some shaky scaling, that could put both of them at faster than light or massively hypersonic speeds, depending on what kind of scaling you do. So, while they might both be matched in speed, Medusa can use her broom to keep up with Orochimaru's, have a higher ground advantage, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. But Orochimaru does have a little bit more advanced snake-like jutsus, as he has a professional pact, and he can use curse marks and better manipulation to control over victims, while Medusa normally just uses the manipulation and control over Krona to her own will. Yeah, it's a little bit rough there. Kind of dark subjects. After, though, we do have to mention that Orochimaru is fully scalable to base form Jiraiya and Tsunade, as we've mentioned repeatedly in his analysis. So, we do also have to say that Medusa is not scalable to Krona. While it may seem like this in some rare instances with Stein, she is scalable to Stein, but not to Krona, as Krona is, well, a bit more powerful in her regard by the end of the series than what Medusa has shown. Anyway, moving on, Medusa can use her Brome for higher up level combat and can use her vector arrows to try to keep Orochimaru at a distance. This would be impressive, but let's take a look at some harder feats. First of all, we know that Orochimaru's strength could match Medusa's Stein Soul Force feat, as both of that and Orochimaru's Tsunade lifting Gamabunta's sword feat could match and put them at equal level. So let's take a look at some more scaling. We know that Medusa is easily scalable to Stein and Maka by the mid to early series. But we're not talking about manga Maka, as that one was a little bit more possibly too powerful for Orochi's own gain. Medusa's gain. Anyway, while we could use Medusa's abilities to keep up with her vector arrows and have better movement speed, Orochimaru has kept up with fast feats as well. Anyway, so Stein's Soul Force could crush a building at max, and keep up with heavy, fast speeds, making him move faster than the eye can see. However, we do have to take into account that all of this and more isn't really at the same level as the stuff we've seen in Naruto. For one, Orochimaru can easily keep up with Jiraiya and take hits from the Rasengan, as well as being able to keep up with Tsunade and Jiraiya's Big Ball Rasengan. It doesn't really occur that much without proper Sage Mode, and cannot fully use it without all of his Senjutsu in Sage Mode. So, let's take a look at two other characters, Itachi and Pain, both of which could possibly be put at the same level of Jiraiya, and have stated to be at the same level of, let's get this, Sasuke and Orochimaru. This is early on Sasuke, who cannot keep, and like I've said, Orochimaru cannot keep up with heavy Dual Mangekyo, Perfect Susanoo Sasuke, or Sixth Path Sage, Kurama Chakra Mode Naruto. They're only early on base form modes. And both of those characters are possibly at the same level as Orochimaru, but they might be stronger. So we could estimate this and find that Orochimaru might be 35 times stronger, over 56 times faster if we take a look at Kakashi's better lightning speeds, and had more training and skill with his jutsus and taijutsu. While these were cool, Medusa did put up a fair fight, remember, these are all in base stats and not in super form, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So, while Medusa had some great feats, Orochimaru just had the better skill. The winner is Orochimaru. On the next episode of Character War, we've got Ken Masters, the fire uppercutting Shuriken Street Fighter and best friend of Ryu from Street Fighter, versus Blaziken, the Hoenn region starter fire type from Pokemon. Hope you guys enjoy. Always be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.